Had being a mother taught you about love? Let's see. A mother has taught me, I don't know love without being a mother, really. Yeah. I thought I knew what it was until I really had something to consider besides myself, something outside myself in a real way. Being responsible for someone's food, clothing, and shelter. First, you're there, uh, hotel, then you're there, restaurant. It's right. Yeah, when you're responsible. Uh, I don't know, love grows from that. Yeah. And it's a natural, instinctual thing moms have too. You know, I remember my children's cry being like a trigger to me. Like, just the slightest thing in my back, I just go into a spasm. Yeah, I'm connected. We were connected, and have always had that invisible umbilical cord connection. What has being a mother taught?
Good morning and welcome to the National Newspaper Publishers Association's Let It Be Known that, gosh, what's her name? Starts off our Monday morning like this. Another week has began. How is it? Begun. That's, of course, Erica Badu. Who does not remember Erica Badu's name? For a moment there, me. Erica Badu, always an interesting individual to me. I've always found her to be extremely fascinating, um, and perplexing and eccentric and all that other stuff. But one of the most talented individuals to ever grace the music scene, Erica Badu. This morning, we're not going to talk about Erica Badu this morning, but we are. Um, that was Grambling State University's very own Erica Badu, is what Power 96 wants people to understand. And congratulations to the Lady Tigers of JSU, the 2024 SWAC softball champions. Power 96, it gave him more of a reason to go make some crawfish in the backyard and open up some beer to go with it. But this morning, they will go to any measure, and we're going to talk about this. But wealthy, very wealthy MAGA donors are actually supporting a particular Democrat, funneling millions of dollars to this Democrat's campaign. Why? Because she's running against former U.S. Capitol Police Officer Harry Dunn. Y'all may remember Harry Dunn, the black officer um, at the Capitol, fending off the mob of crazies who rampaged and rioted at the Capitol. In its wake, 5 officers lost their lives. Radiant, resilient, and relentless Robin. What a name. That is so cool. Says good morning to all. Radiant, resilient, and relentless Robin. The 4 R's. I guess those 4 R's are the most important to Robin. Radiant, resilient, and relentless. I like that. Um, and Marilyn Mosby, though she won't serve 40 years in prison, as efforts continue to get the president to pardon her, prosecutors are asking for 3 years incarceration, 5 years probation, and community service, and they want to confiscate her properties. The NAACP and others have jumped in. We'll bring you the latest this morning as well. And former President Donald Trump. Always in the news, yes. But here's the thing. So this is again, as you who vote want to consider this audit, this IRS audit is seemingly turning out that he's going to owe over $100 million in taxes, and back taxes. 100 million. So once again, and we'll talk about this morning too. For all those who say, "Oh, they're just prosecuting him because he's running," or $100 million that he avoided paying to the IRS, according so far to this audit. Listen, I was audited once, not too long ago, and it certainly wasn't $100 million. It was a couple of dollars, and they said you got to pay this few $1,000s. It was you got to pay it, but 100 million, it wouldn't have been a discussion. It would not have been a discussion. 100,000, it wouldn't have been a discussion. They locking me up. They locking you up. But 100 million. And not only are they not locking this guy up, they ready to put him in office. We're gonna talk about that this morning. And a really, really, um, if you're, I mean, you don't have to be a baseball fan or a fan of sports or whatever, but I tell you what, this one story that we're gonna bring you this morning may make you a Los Angeles Dodgers fan. And we'll tell you what they did. Keep in mind, it's Mental Health Awareness Month, but this has been going on for 5 years. It's related to mental health, yes, but it's going to promise you it'll be heartwarming. This story we're going to bring you this morning about the Los Angeles Dodgers. So hopefully everybody had a great, great weekend. Hopefully it was one of those weekends where you can look back and say, "Hey, I did get a little rest or a little extracurricular activity." So I'm gonna tell you a short story. So my 17-year-old, I did not want to go. My wife really didn't want to go to the fair. It's a fair that's going on locally, and but you know, it was a warm day, warm evening. I don't get on rides and stuff anymore. Um, so anyway, we drive around to the fair, and first thing that struck us was the fact that the line was out of this world to get in. I am allergic to waiting on lines. Don't wait on lines. Don't care where I go. Movie theater, airports. I don't wait on line. I avoid them at all cost. But my beautiful 17-year-old, well, yes, I want to go. The 14-year-old was the sense and sensibility person, speaking sense. But I saw a group, this large group of young ones. I'm like, they, these guys look like they up to no good. And my 17, oh, they go to my school. They just kids. They okay. Blah blah blah. Okay, we parked the car, and then we talk more about it because the fair is gonna be there at least another week. And we finally convinced her, okay, let's try like maybe Monday, and which is today, this evening. So anyway, long story short, we don't we go and get some smoothies instead of going to the fair. We go drive down the road and get some smoothies. And um yesterday, the news comes on at the entrance of the fair, a wild shootout took place. And one 16-year-old is dead, another 17-year-old is fighting for his life. You can't even go to a fair or carnival or whatever you want to call it. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. But that parental instinct is what's really, yeah, I never realized it. Well, we never really acknowledged it when we were growing up. Our parents had that parental instinct. And now I feel like I got it. And I feel bad for the young man that lost his life, the 16-year-old young teenager, and those others who were injured. Several were injured. And this was an event that is being put on by law enforcement who law enforcement puts on the event, and it's a what they call lead. So it's against something about violence or whatever. It's to combat violence in communities or whatever. And look what happens. Unreal. Unreal. We got to do better. We got to do better. And they really, again, it's only in incidents like this at schools too. Of course, at schools, mostly at schools when there's shootings, when the gun issue comes up. Everybody wants to carry a gun, and more importantly, because my mom always says, "You're not too old for your wants to hurt." Um, but more importantly, lawmakers continue to feed off the gun lobbyists and the NRA especially, and continue to be held hostage by them, to kowtow to them, and nothing is done. You're putting automatic weapons, military style weapons in the hands of everyday people, not even in law enforcement's hands. I mean, we're not just talking law enforcement has their military style tactics and weapons and stuff like that too, but goodness grief, everyday citizens. And in some states, and these so-called conservative states, um, conservative-led states, they are allowing people to get weapons as young as 18, even without a permit or any type of training. And here we are again. So at least one teenager, 16 years old, dead, one 17-year-old fighting for his life, others injured, and 596, yes, the gun lobby is a hot mess. They are behind mentally ill people being able to own a firearm, which is right. Yeah, all because you have elected people in Congress and in the Senate who get these major paychecks from NRA and the gun folks and mandate they don't touch, they don't make any laws prohibiting anyone, and then they go on about First Amendment, First Amendment. Every board member, Southbound 3000 says, and president should step down immediately. Um, this is why when I was younger, I would never understand, why you have all these lobbyists and Congress people listening to them. Now I get it. Now I get it. I get it in the sense that people are, uh, again, it's a very scriptural thing. Money, money is the love of money is the root of all injurious things. Mike V says he felt safer in Rwanda than he did in the U.S. And David Youngblood says we love guns more than people. Yeah, it's millions of dollars are going, and it's not like, and make no mistake, it's not going into their campaigns. Some of it may be going into their campaigns. A lot of that is going into their pockets. It's going right into their personal accounts, and it needs to stop. It has to stop. You have only a handful. I know my girl AOC is 100% down with getting rid of this lobby stuff where folks are getting money, but there's not many others because they said they get fat, and they know that because already when you are a lawmaker, and many of them are there for 20, 30 years, they're 1,000 years old, and they are still there crafting laws and blocking laws. George Floyd Justice and Police Act, do you hear us? Um, and when if they ever retired or didn't run, or folks decide in their communities, oh, we want a different representative, because folks obviously they don't pay attention. They don't pay attention to what their representatives do. They just it's a automatic thing. Okay, this person, they got my vote. They don't pay attention. If they were paying attention, we wouldn't be talking about Donald Trump being a front runner anyway, right? So that proof enough that people just don't pay attention. But these same folks, Dianne Feinstein died last year because she was 194 years old or something like that. I know I'm close. Fight me if you think I'm not close. They said she was 93. Refused to retire. The Supreme Court is all messed up because you had a justice. One reason why is because you had a justice, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, refused to retire, refused to allow the president to pick a replacement before the MAGAs picked the replacement. And then, as Power 96 points out, when you have a person like Oliver North in charge of the NRA, you better expect the USA to be the wild, wild west. He has been running guns since 1980s. And that's the thing. Iran Contra. Wasn't he the central figure in the 1980s? But this is what happens. This is what happens when you continually ignore. Because people remember the song, I Believe the Children Are Our Future? And people say it all the time. Oh, that's the future. That's the future. But they never allow space for the future. And that's not just in politics. That's everywhere, including in media. You gotta allow space, especially for this generation of young ones. David says the corruption of at least three justices doesn't help. Well, the point is one of those corrupt justices was in as a result of Ruth Bader Ginsburg not giving up her seat when she should have. And we know it's also a product of Mitch McConnell stealing seats. That's a Republican Democrat problem, and Democrats continue to show their serious weak side by allowing stuff like that to happen. And then people say, well, maybe they didn't have the votes, or maybe they couldn't. No, they could have done something. Republicans, when they really want something, these MAGA folks want something done, they find a way. They find a way. This idea, once again, I say it again, I'm a peaceful individual, but this idea of Michelle Obama's, the Democrats following that mantra of going low, go high stuff, that, come on. Come on. When Mike Tyson was in his prime, you stepped in the ring with him, you knew that you were in for the fight of your life. Your life was pretty much on the line. Were you just going to jab? Were you just going to try and jab him? Were you just going to stand in front of him? No. But that would be the equivalent of when they go low, I go high. Well, they go low, you go high, you die. I want you to add that to the slogan. And that's what's been happening. And now we got this. So, and like I said, this idea of George Floyd Justice and the Police Act, the John Lewis uh, Act, all that stuff, we can't do it. This idea of DC can't get statehood because we don't have the votes. Um, when the Republicans want to get something done, and in a lot of cases, as evil as it is, they get it done. Um, now they don't want this guy, Harry Dunn, to win his campaign against another Democrat. So they're funneling millions of dollars to State Senator Sarah Elfred's campaign. And this is for Maryland's third district. The state primary is tomorrow, but she has received multi-million dollar donations from a flood of right wing donors, including right wing super PACs, who've raised tens of millions of dollars from donations from some of Trump's biggest supporters. The United Democracy Project, which is an arm of the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, they spent more than $500,000 on a television ad for Alfred, this Democrat. They describe themselves as a group of Democrats, though, which is a lie. Um, Republicans and independents who support what they say is America's partnership with, quote, our democratic ally Israel. The group has spent $4.2 million backing State Senator Alford, um, which is much more than the 1.4 million that her own campaign has raised. Now the ads don't mention Israel, but they try to bolster. They're trying to bolster her against Dunn simply because Dunn was at the Capitol defending the Capitol during the January 6th insurrection. Not to mention he's black. But here's the problem, more so even than that. Why would why would you take money from them? Why would you do that? It's you Democrats everywhere should be up in arms. They should be up in arms. Some of the fundings comes from Larry Mizell, who served as Trump's 2016 fundraising campaign coordinator in Colorado in 2016, as you said. Real estate developer Robert Cargman, who backed Trump's 2020 campaign, and of course Laura Loomer. And there's a lot of other names that are heavily involved in Republican politics that are giving money to Alfred to try and defeat Dunn. Mike V says the presence of his masculinity is a threat itself. Yeah, it's really interesting. It's she is sleeping with the enemy. Oh boy. And they said Power 96 said they're doing the same thing to Jamal Bowman. No surprise. Like I said, the surprise is that you would have a Democrat taking money from MAGA folks. It just shows you again, a long time ago, some years ago, during a Congressional Black Caucus Foundation's annual legislative caucus, a very prominent member of the U.S. House of Representatives, black individual, I'll narrow it down for you, told me, talked to me candidly, off the record, of course, about his disgust with fellow uh, Democrats, fellow black congresspeople who he said will take money from anyone, which he also went on to say would make you do uh, anything and put you at their whim. And we see that again. It's, it's not the reason I don't get involved in politics, but it's certainly a reason to stay away from it for me personally, because it's nasty. It's just it's mud. It's disgusting. It's for you. It's not for me. I cover it, and covering it, multiple showers are needed afterwards. These are some dirty people. These are dirty people. There is not a whole lot different. No, forget about it. They're dirty people. Let's move on. Let's move on. Um, so Marilyn Mosby, we reported recently about prosecutors seeking a 40-year prison sentence for her. And now that we come down to the so-called the nitty-gritty, the imminent sentencing of Marilyn Mosby is going to take place, or scheduled to take place, I should say, in 10 days. Prosecutors are now asking the judge to send the former Baltimore City State's attorney to federal prison for 3 years. Um, Actually, they want no less than 20 months in prison, and they want 5 years probation, community service, and they're in the process already of confiscating, seizing her property down in Florida, the property in question. In fact, there are two properties that they are seeking to seize down there of hers. And remember, all of this is over $5,000 of her own money. She was convicted of 2 counts of perjury and lying on a mortgage application. Um, NAACP President Derek Johnson has also joined a chorus of folks sending a letter to President Biden and urging him to pardon her. He says that jail is not justice for Marilyn Mosby. He says it is a miscarriage of justice, actually, and an example of the last administration's misuse of authority. Now, he got some pushback from an unlikely place. Um, Former NAACP president, former Baltimore NAACP president, Doc Cheatham, says that the organization should stay out of the case because there's no evidence, according to Doc Cheatham, of a civil rights violation. He says, was it sex or race? It doesn't have any of those issues. It may be an injustice, but it's not a civil rights issue. Now, Cheatham says it may be an injustice. Who was it? Who was it in this well repeated phrase says that an injustice anywhere? Um, Talked about an injustice anywhere is actionable. I believe it started with King. I mean, we've heard, you know, Sharpton repeated, Jesse Jackson's repeated it, Dr. Chavis has repeated it. All these civil rights icons have repeated this. But Doc Cheatham says that it may be an injustice, but it's not for the NAACP. Since when, Doc Cheatham, perhaps why the title says ex-president, but since when an injustice against a black woman, um, since when an injustice against a black woman does not amount to NAACP getting involved? Heck, the NAACP got involved in maybe in a case they maybe should not have years and years ago with a black woman, a former black woman, I might add, somebody who thinks they're a former black woman anyway, Candace Owens. Lauren Burke is watching. She says Marvin Doc Cheatham should keep his mouth shut. Since when is it that the NAACP should be quiet on anything? Lauren says. Mike V says, when I see Brett Favre sentenced to 40 years, then we could talk about Maryland doing time. Speak on it, Mike V. Still, Derek Johnson, as he should have, brushed that gnat off of his shoulders that Doc Cheatham decided to put on there. And despite that, he's in the NAAC has led a contingent of 14 civil rights organizations in urging President Biden for a presidential pardon. He says, we've watched decade after decade as Black Americans have faced wrongful prosecution at the hands of those who seek to promote injustice. The only thing Marilyn Mosby is guilty of is the desire to provide her family with a better life. The sad reality, he says, is as Black women take their rightful places in positions of power, dark forces seek to tear down both their progress and that of our community. The NAACP refuses to stand idly by as injustice takes the wheel, driving us down a path of further disparity. Derek Johnson goes on to say that we are proud to stand alongside our partners in calling on President Biden and the Department of Justice to re-emphasize their commitment to racial equity by pardoning Attorney Mosby. Enough is enough. It's time to stand with Black women, he says. And they point out, um, Gwen Ifill, everyone has pointed out that this really, the origins of this, of course, is Freddie Gray and her prosecuting those officers. Um, this idea that she lied about $5,000, her $5,000, when really, I mean, I understand. I've obviously done a mortgage application before. I understand that every statement has to be truthful, but this was a situation where she said her husband gave her $5,000, and prosecutors somehow determined that the $5,000 was hers, that he didn't give it to her. He couldn't have given it to her because it was already her money. Make it make sense. Make it make sense. When again, we she said, I promise Gwen, Cheryl and I feel okay. Thanks for correcting me. She said, I promise Gwen Eiffel ain't saying nothing about this. Cheryl and Eiffel, I knew I said it wrong. Get on my case. But we yell and scream. We hear people yelling and screaming, I should say, not us. Greer's in a mood this morning of making sure that she has the pins and needles on me. Um, but we yell, people yell and scream about um, so-called victimless crimes that the former president may or may not have committed. And then you got, I'm gonna say some names, Stephen A. Smith, showing showing his true lack of color, not his true colors, but his true lack of color. Um, and the, and this is her money. No matter how you slice it, no matter how you slice it, it came out of her account or her husband's account. But then they say, well, she also uh, lied, said that she had a hardship, so she took money out of her retirement account. Now, it's her account. She paid into that retirement 40 years or even 2 years, 20 months. That's your money. It's her money. And in no way am I advocating people lying. And if she, let's say she lied, that she said she had a hardship, a COVID hardship, and she saw that was the only way to get the $5,000 or whatever it was from the retirement account. Um, she's she still didn't steal anything. She still didn't hurt anybody. She took from her future, right? She took money that she's supposed to live off of when she retires, but that's her business. That's her doing. I mean, give me an argument here as to why she should be facing any prison time. There's no sound argument for this. Not to mention, not to mention, you could say, okay, she is convicted. Okay, but not all convictions. lead to prison time. Nor should it. Nor should it. Depends on the crime, right? That's how the law is set. That's just speaking legally. How about this? Okay. What are we looking at for Donald Trump? His IRS bill. Remember when he was in office, he would never release the taxes, his tax returns. Oh, he, I'm under audit. He says I'm under audit, and he just flat out refused. First president in history, flat out refused to release his tax returns. Well, now and we all had an idea why. Come on, everybody knew why. Now it's come to light. $100 million, more than $100 million, he's facing after a government audit indicated that he double dipped on tax losses tied to a Chicago skyscraper. It was reported that the findings could, of course, put a renewed focus on his business career as he tries to regain the White House this year. But he used his status as a real estate developer and, of course, reality television star to build a political movement we know. But yet, he had continually refused to release his taxes. But the filings that the public does know about have come from reporting from like ProPublica, the New York Times, and others. And of course, there was this massive public release by Democrats on the House and Ways Committee 2 years ago. But the tax records indicate that Trump twice deducted losses on the Trump International Hotel and the Trump Tower, both of which opened in 2009 near the banks of the Chicago River. The latest report says that he initially reported losses of $658 million in a 2008 filing under the premise that the property fit the IRS's definition of being, quote, worthless because condominium sales were disappointing and retail space went unfilled during a recession that year. But in 2010, he transferred the ownership of the property to a different holding company that he also controlled, using the move to save money on taxes by reporting an additional $168 million in losses over the next decade on the same property. So the report concludes that he is in the hole for at least $100 million, including penalties. And we know that he's currently trying to appeal a verdict in which his company and top executives lied about Trump's wealth on financial statements, conning bankers and insurers who did business with him. He was able to post a $175 million bond last month, which temporarily stopped collection of more than $454 million that he owes from the judgment. It also temporarily prevented the New York state, from seizing his assets. But once again, the presumptive Republican nominee, the um, some polls say the front runner to win the White House. When folks tell you who they are, when they show you who they are, you gotta believe them. You gotta believe them. And Power 96 says the investigator of that case is a Trump DOJ appointee. Biden should have fired any and everything that was associated with Trump. Yeah, that's another brain scratcher too. Um, it's another head scratcher that why Biden kept these guys, these individuals. Um, it's again, Republicans would not keep Democrats. Why, oh why? Why? Somebody explain that. I just don't seem to get it. And then, oh, this here. So what's the deal with this? They Roger Stone post that, yeah, New Jersey isn't play for Donald Trump. Could Joe Biden draw a crowd like this? Well, this happens to have been. This is a fake picture that Roger Stone used. Everything that they do is fake. This happens to have been in Rio de Janeiro. That's not New Jersey, and it happens to have been at a Rod Stewart concert. As you can see, the pavilion. This is what they do. You remember the whole inauguration crowd? And how they they try to tell you that you were seeing something different than what happened. And that was from way back in 1994. This picture. It's it's just amazing that they don't think that folks, especially the internet they say is undefeated. Social media is undefeated. You come with something like that, you better come with facts. They never come with facts, and social media calls them out constantly. Said that this was a but this type of misinformation, there are still a whole lot of people who don't pay attention and who would have looked at that, "Oh, wow, Trump got all those people in New Jersey." First of all, that does not look anything like New Jersey. There's no part of New Jersey that looks like that. But folks would have taken that, and I'm sure many folks have taken that and ran with it. Hmm, isn't no, Roger Stone is the other one that Manafort, somebody just went to prison. Stone is not locked up again. He's just being stoned. Unreal. That's what it is, folks. That's what it is. Power 96 says Trump has a chance of winning Jersey like I have a chance of winning Alabama and Mississippi. Oh gosh. Here's a story that it's so good to bring a story like this. It is an amazing story in a lot of ways, considering the Los Angeles Dodgers made a quiet yet notable move. They renewed the contract of a former outfielder named Andrew Toles. He is 31 years old. He has not played in the major leagues in 6 years. He's been on the restricted list um, all that time because of mental health issues. He was subsequently diagnosed with bipolar disorder and schizophrenia. And there's no reason to believe that he'll ever take another swing. He'll ever get on a baseball field again for the Dodgers or anyone else. But the Dodgers each year have renewed his contract so that he maintains his health insurance. It is a shockingly decent act in an industry that too often loses touch with humanity. Andrew Toles appeared in 96 games from the Dodgers from 2016 to 2018. Um, he even appeared in the 2016 National League Championship Series for the Dodgers. But back in 2021, USA Today reported that he had been in at least 20 mental health clinics since leaving the Dodgers. He was found sleeping at a Florida airport after he was arrested in 2020. And his father, Alvin, who he gained legal guardianship, brought him back to Georgia, where he's from. And Alvin says that we are having challenges, but nothing that God and I can't handle. He says his son has schizophrenia and it's just tough. He says, I mean, he can't even watch television. He hears voices and the TV, so it's kind of confusing. He says, I've seen him looking at some baseball games on his laptop, but I don't think he really understands what's going on. I just want him to have a chance in life, his father says. That's all. Just to be healthy, live a normal life. It's so heartbreaking. Um, but at the same time, for the Los Angeles Dodgers to put him, see, and baseball has this policy. A lot of sports league, NBA, they have a salary. Well, NBA has a salary cap, but baseball has this if this salary situation where if you go over a certain threshold in your overall salary, you got to pay these penalties and things like that. And so every dollar really counts, right? But the fact that is that they kept them on the payroll, and that counts against their luxury tax, is what they call it. Um, you can't say enough about this organization, which is um, one of the best run organizations in sports and co-owned by Magic Johnson. But this right here, this is a reason I should say to root for Dodger Blue. And I'm a Mets fan. And so, but this gives you reason to root for the Los Angeles Dodgers to do something like this. Um, eh, Teams are allowed to renew contracts with players who are not arbitration eligible each spring. Now they can put him on a restricted list, meaning that he is not being paid. But by renewing his contract, I think it was the last contract was something like $700,000, which is not a whole lot of money in today's game. But the most important part of that, again, is the health, the mental health insurance. And believe me, Major League Baseball has better health care, better access to health care than even than anyone. Perhaps either rivaling or certainly just as good, if not better, than the federal government with lawmakers. These players get the best, and from what I understand, and I don't have all the details, they're not restricted to certain doctors like many of us are. You have your primary care. You got to pay extra to go to outside that, and for surgery, blah blah blah. For hospital stay, they pay nothing, and you can imagine. You can only imagine, and some of you probably understand what a huge, huge um, help this is for Andrew Toles' family, his father. Huge. And they have done this. The Dodgers have continually declined to talk about this or comment on this. They don't want any fanfare. But every single year, quietly renew his contract. And it's been 6 years since he last put on that uniform. And this poor young man fighting uh, mental illness is given a huge, huge assist, he and his family, from the Los Angeles Dodgers. It's a story that we love to bring. It's refreshing to know that um, there's a human element here in sports, and that I mean this, and he's not a superstar. Many of you, who is that? He's not. He's not a household name. But the Dodgers saw fit, and this is what you like to see, especially when you see some teams boast, "Oh, we take care of our own," until you're not our own anymore. The Dodgers have taken care of business here, and it certainly should go a long way, not only with their fans, but with fans of all sports, fans of just humanity, fans of human beings. This is a huge, huge thing, and great, great job. I don't know what to say. Congratulations to the Dodgers. Great job. Um, I don't know who in the organization thought about this, but certainly the entire organization signed off on it. Had to. The ownership team, and like I said, that includes Irvin Magic Johnson. Power 96 is a noble deed and very rare. The NBA needs to take notes. 100%. And this was what I was going there too. Delonte West from the Cavs still going through a lot. And at one point, I know that Mark Cuban did reach out and did go and help Delonte West, who was living under freeways in Texas. Extremely talented basketball player. I know the last I heard from Mark Cuban was that again that Delonte had, after him helping him trying to get him back on his feet, he had went out and the mental illness took over again, and they couldn't find him again. So I don't know the very latest with Delonte West. Southbound 3000 says you got to get them with the Black Cowboys to get back to the basics of society, like fishing, farming, horseback riding. Um, Horseback riding is so important. There was this charity in Scranton, Pennsylvania, Marley's Mission, and where horses play a huge role in healing individuals and certainly helping to deal with mental health issues. And it's a proven scientific uh, fact, I guess, that horses do help heal. And so that's a good call, Southbound 3000. Um, but when you see this, and it is mental health, National Mental Health Month, um, but this is not why the Dodgers did it. To make a statement for national mental, in fact, the renewal of this contract took place back in February. We're just learning of it now because it is Mental Health Awareness Month. But they do it every single February. They have done it every single February for the last 6 years, as we said. But yeah, there are some athletes who've gone through a lot of you know challenges with their mental health. There are a lot of stories out there about that, and it's really good to bring it at this time of the year. But it's something, National Mental Health Awareness Month is one of those months. It's one of those times where you reflect and you say it should be awareness all year, every year, all year long, not just 1 month. And the way this country has gone, Black History Month is still in the shortest month of the year, but it should be every until things change. It should be every month. Make it every month. I know Power 96 makes it every month. It's Black History Day every day at his house. So we need to take heed. Take heed. But yeah, again, um, congratulations to the Dodgers. We're gonna keep you up to date, by the way, on the Marilyn Mosby situation. Again, the sentencing is scheduled in 10 days. And we're gonna definitely keep you up to date. We promised that we were gonna be asking questions, and we are asking questions. We was pleased, extremely pleased. Greer and I was at the White House a few days ago, and very pleased that April Ryan used some of her time in the press briefing room to ask questions about Marilyn Mosby, and I was talking to one of the well, I was talking to the director of Black Media, um, and Roderica Applewhite about that as well. Of course, she couldn't really comment on that situation, but we are going to continue to keep it in front, just like the Derek Johnson and others, Cheryl and Eiffel, and others. If I tell you I was talking to Gwen Ifield, then y'all need to know that I'm in trouble again. But nonetheless, stay tuned because we're going to continue to bring you the information on Marilyn Mosby and so many other things that helps to start your morning. And thanks again. Please go to our YouTube page, hit subscribe, hit share, hit like, make your comments, and tell us also things that you want us to talk about in the morning. And we will make sure to do so. We'll see you again tomorrow. Thanks for joining us.